One evening, the charming Monica Boguca goes to the shipyard club with her friend, Mario Dubiela. There, Mario dances with his girlfriend while Monica heads to the bar. She asks a man named Valdemar Mila for 2 bottles of beer, only to be disappointed by the poor service. Monica comments on how crappy it is, so Valdemar asks if she thinks she can do better. She cheekily asks if they pay well, and when Valdemar says that they're not hiring, Monica quips that this is a club for incels, prompting the man to ask if they'll get better customers if they hire her. The two end up sleeping together, with Valdemar biting her lip until it bleeds. Time passes, and a dead body is found at the beach. Prosecutor Leopold Bilski heads there and talks to the men investigating the case, Kita and Pajak, learning they didn't find an ID or a phone on the body. Afterward, Bilski asks the medical examiner, Tadeusz Dubiela, who's wondering if anyone at the scene took photos of the body before pulling it out of the water. The thing is, the body's position in the water can give them a clue. They then turn the body on its back, and that's when they all see that it's a young woman whose lips have been removed. Surprisingly, Dubiela knows her. It's Monica. With no time to waste, the authorities inform Monica's mother, Judge Helena Boguca, of what happened. She's taken to the morgue to identify her daughter's body, and upon seeing the sorry sight of the child she birthed and raised, Helena blanches. She signs a document and quickly returns to her car. As it turns out, Monica has injuries to the occipital, older signs of beating, and injuries in her privates. Her killer was cruel, twisted. Even her lips were removed post-mortem. Bilski sees Helena drive away, but the devastated mother almost crashes into another vehicle and breaks down. Meanwhile, Dubiela starts Monica's autopsy. At the police station, Bilski's supervisor, Ambrosiak, shows him a photo of Janeta Kaleta. She went clubbing with her friends 15 years ago, left alone, and never made it home. The perp was her fiancé, Jakubiak. Janeta's DNA was found at his place, and recently, he was released. Learning this, Bilski heads to Jakubiak's house with the police and shows the man Monica's photo, asking if he knows her. Jakubiak nervously claims he's never seen Monica before. Bilski states the situation looks odd, which reminds Jakubiak that Ambrosiak, the prosecutor who charged him, said the same thing. When Jakubiak learns he's Bilski's supervisor, he begs the prosecutor not to frame him again. Life in prison was hell for him. He was violated every day. To this, Bilski merely reminds him that he was legally convicted, so Jakubiak takes out the engagement ring he bought before Janeta's death. He loved her dearly. He couldn't have done that. When asked for his alibi during his fiancé's death, Jakubiak claims that he's always with his mother. He never goes out. Moments later, Pajak informs Bilski they've got something. Kita shows him the bloody shirt they found in the barn, making Jakubiak panic and think he's being framed again. As a result, he attacks Bilski and tries to flee, but Pajak stops and restrains him. Upon reaching the police station, Jakubiak suggests that Bilski check the shipyard club since Janeta met someone there, but in the end, the prosecutor charges him with the murder of Monica Boguca. There it is again, his life coming to an end for a second time. All Jakubiak can do is refuse to acknowledge the charges against him. He then asks Bilski for a glass of water, but the moment he leaves the room, Jakubiak jumps out the window. After that, Ambrosiak talks to Bilski about the blood they found on the shirt from Jakubiak's house with Monica's DNA. Bilski stresses that the plastic bag containing it didn't have Jakubiak's DNA or prints, so this whole situation doesn't make sense. If he were the perp, why would he pull all the stops to make sure that the evidence doesn't point to him, only to put that shirt in his barn? Unlike Bilski, Ambrosiak is satisfied that Jakubiak had been identified before he died. That's why they're closing the investigation. He gets annoyed when Bilski says the evidence could have been planted, so he simply repeats that the investigation will be closed due to Jakubiak's death. At Monica's funeral, Helena thanks Mario and his father, Dubiela, for coming. The young man is very emotional as he expresses how much he misses Monica, but quickly leaves after talking to Helena. Meanwhile, Bilski notices that Monica's father, Roman Bogucki, is looking at someone but doesn't see who it is. Later, Bilski talks to the psychiatrist who examined Jakubiak to get to know him better. According to the psychiatrist, it's rare for a psychopath to take their own life. When asked about the mutilations, he explains that the killer wanted to keep the body parts as trophies. Bilski then asks the psychiatrist who the killer might be, and he suggests they look for a 30 to 60-year-old Caucasian male, not necessarily well-educated. Someone who has psychopathic tendencies but not necessarily a criminal. After talking to the psychiatrist, Bilski visits Janeta's father, Kaleta. Bilski wonders if his daughter mentioned being scared of anyone, but she didn't say anything to Kaleta. As Bilski brings up the shipyard club, Kaleta says he doesn't know anything about that, and asks the prosecutor why he's still investigating when Jakubiak's already dead. So, Bilski stresses they're checking everything to be sure before showing Kaleta one of the photos from Janeta's box of pictures. He asks who the guy his daughter was sitting with, but Kaleta has no idea, prompting Bilski to just take a picture of the man using his phone. At home, Helena checks on Roman, crushed. She can only say that they failed their daughter. In her grief, the woman gets drunk in Monica's room before heading to the beach. She tries to drown herself, but thankfully, Roman catches her and manages to save her. Later that evening, Bilski drops by Monica's house to ask her parents if she was connected to the shipyard club. While Roman doesn't know, Helena says their daughter worked there behind the bar. Helena also shares that Monica was wearing her mother's ruby ring and never took it off, so she asks Bilski to check if the authorities have it. Wasting no time, Bilski goes to the shipyard club and learns from a woman working there that the owners are out. She then gives Bilski the calling card of their lawyer, who turns out to be Roman. The woman doesn't want to say anything else and just asks Bilski to contact their lawyer. In the morning, Helena hears Roman talking to someone on the phone. He's quite on edge as he tells the person that he saw them at the funeral and that a prosecutor came to his house. Stammering, Roman starts talking about how, if they had anything to do with his daughter's death, well, he can't finish his warning. He even sounds hesitant. In any case, they agree to meet after work, and Helena makes sure to follow. There, she catches Roman kissing another woman repeatedly before parting with her. The grieving woman can only look on in pensive silence. but instead of confronting him, Helena follows him to a house and sees him talking to a man. Unfortunately, her investigation is cut short when the man's dog notices and tries to chase her. Once she gets home, Helena calls and asks someone to check an address for her. While waiting, she checks Roman's flash drives one by one. As she learns who Roman was talking to earlier, she continues checking his flash drives, including a unique-looking one that shows her Lukasz Kazarski's estate purchase agreement. In the evening, Bilski visits Dubiela to know the differences between Monica and Janetta's bodies and learns that both women died of head trauma. The red zone of the lip was removed in a similar way, most likely with a utility knife. The penetration marks were similar too. Hard objects like some tool's handle or a bottle could have been used. For Dubiela, a crazy man shouldn't have been granted parole. He's not saying he's certain that Jakubiak was the killer though. That's for Bilski to find out. Before the prosecutor leaves, he asks Mario if he knows the Shipyard Club. Mario says Monica worked there as a bartender, but there's nothing special about it. With how things are unfolding, Roman is looking very suspicious. For one, he acted ignorant about Monica's connection to the Shipyard Club, when Helena knows that she worked there. This can't even be dismissed as a simple case of the father not knowing what his children are up to, seeing as Roman is the club owner's lawyer. His conversation with the stranger may imply that he isn't involved with his daughter's death, but he certainly knows more than he's letting on. Tangentially, Roman's being extremely callous too. He's cheating on Helena and kissing a woman in public, even after his daughter died and his wife tried to drown herself. As for Jakubiak, Bilski's assessment was correct. It made no sense for him to leave no traces of his DNA on the shirt, only to keep it in his barn. Jakubiak made for an easy scapegoat. He was recently released for a similar crime, and the methods to the cruelty inflicted upon the women were the same. Then again, who's to say how a sadistic killer would act? Meanwhile, Valdemar is still missing from the entire picture. He bit Monica's lip hard to the point of bleeding, which would have incentivized him to remove her lips if he were the killer, as that could be evidence against him. It's worth noting, however, that Monica's death likely didn't happen right after they slept together. At the time, she was still applying for a job at the Shipyard Club, but after her death, Helena told Bilski that she's working there. Back when Monica was still alive, she's taken to selling magic pills to people in the club. When Mario bought one off her, she was reluctant but made the sale anyway. The entire time, Lukasz Kazarski had been staring intently at her, so she waltzed over to him and charmingly asked what's the matter. Kazar stiffly answered that everywhere he looked, all he saw was people half his age, so Monica told him he's not so bad for a guy her father's age. When Kazar guessed that her father must be a handsome man, she chipperly answered that he's a narcissist. She slyly tried to sell the man their product, but Waldemar quickly showed up and signaled her to stop. He then greeted Kazar, who happened to be their boss, which took Monica aback. During her smoke break, Monica asked Valdemar who Kazar was, and if he knew they were dealing, but she didn't get a clear answer. She's worried about what Kazar would have done if she slipped up, and Valdemar only reminded her that she didn't. Monica kept telling him that she was going to stop dealing, but he told her she won't, because a gangster's girl is fearless. Despite her repeating that she'll stop, she's quickly convinced by Valdemar as their exchange got steamy with his hand around her throat. In the present, Bilski is checking the police database for old reports of missing persons and focuses on 3 cases of women. He meets with Helena the next day and informs her they don't have Monica's ring. Learning this, Helena shares with the prosecutor that a Cypriot company owns the Shipyard Club, and the real owner is Lukasz Kazarski, a gangster. Helena just discovered that her husband represents Kazar, so she now doubts that Jakubiak killed Monica. When asked if Monica was violated, Bilski admits they don't know, because the marks on her body were not inflicted right before she was killed. This means that those marks were being inflicted on her for a while. Although it pains her, Helena wants to know what exactly happened to her daughter. Later, Bilski joins Payak and Kita in a bar to tell them they're opening Monica's case and checking links between missing girls and the club. If Ambrosiak finds out about it, Bilski will take the blame. When asked if they know anything about Kazar, Kita reveals that the gangster has a lot of legitimate businesses with illegal ones hidden in between. A few years ago, a girl accused him of violating and trying to kill her, but for some reason, she withdrew the charges. Around the same time, Helena shows up at Dubiela's place and kisses him. The medical examiner reminds her that they were supposed to stop already, but they still end up sleeping together. Afterward, Helena sadly confesses that she would give anything to hold Monica one more time. In turn, Dubiela shares that he doesn't know what he'd do if anything happened to Mario. She then asks if he misses his wife, and he does, sometimes. With a heavy sigh, he says that Mario hates him. He believes Dubiela helped his wife die as she OD'd on morphine when she was terminal. Changing the subject, Helena tells Dubiela that Monica was aware of their relationship. Dubiela already knows that Mario told Monica about their affair when he saw him with Helena. Once more, she finds herself talking about Monica, and she mentions that Bilski told her she worked at the same club the first victim, Zanita, did. Helena doesn't want to remember how much her daughter has suffered, but she isn't convinced that Jakubiak was the killer. The next day, Bilski meets Dubiela to discuss a dead woman. She shares the same injuries as Monica and Zanetta, while her cause of death was intestinal perforation, which means that a stick was inserted from behind and punctured her intestine. Unlike Monica, her lips were untouched. This one is a lady of the night, and she was found in a dumpster by the Shipyard Club. Dubiela autopsied her 3 years ago, and because of her profession, her case was considered an accident at work. When Monica was still alive, she went with Valdemar to visit Kazar. Inside the house, she was silently pressured into doing some lines, which she did with great reluctance. She kept stealing glances at Valdemar, and all the while, Kazar overbearingly admired her beauty, and despite her clear discomfort, he declared that he'll marry her one day. Everyone cheered, and a man named Norbert boisterously told Kazar to go get her, which offended him. He coldly declared that his future wife isn't some hoe before breaking into laughter. It's cut short, however, as Kazar revealed that someone's been dealing on the side. With that, he banged Norbert's head on the table, rendering him unconscious. By the time Norbert woke up, he was already undressed and restrained. He initially denied being a traitor, but after being punched repeatedly, he admitted where he got the stuff. Ruskies from Kaliningrad. Norbert just begged Khazar to take all his money, but the man wouldn't settle for that. He made Norbert choose eye, nut, or lip. And when the man begrudgingly chooses lip, Khazar gets rid of it before offing Norbert. On their way home, a tense Monica demanded Valdemar to pull over so she could throw up. She clearly wanted out, but he admitted that Khazar's not going to let her go. Still, she shouldn't be scared because he'll fix the problem. At present, Bilski goes to Monica's house to check her room. There, Helena learns that Wojciech Bilski is his father. She shares that the two of them worked together a long time ago, and the community was shocked when he was killed. That aside, Bilski starts looking around while Helena talks about Ambrosiak's success in his early days, Jakubiak. This is where the prosecutor states that if Jakubiak wasn't the killer, then someone planted the evidence now and 15 years ago. He noticed that the man wasn't acting like a serial killer, and he thinks the killings and the club could be a coincidence. Bilski wants to know if there are more cases of missing girls, and more importantly, he's curious as to where the bodies could be. Helena then wonders if it's possible that after Jakubiak killed Janetta and threw her body into the sea, he got the hang of it and learned to hide bodies. Bilski agrees with her, but he notes that Monica doesn't fit that theory. The prosecutor also wants to find out why the killer is using objects for insertion and where he keeps the girl's lips. Eventually, Bilski finds substances in Monica's belongings. One day, Valdemar gave Monica a revealing outfit because they were expecting a guest. They then got into a fight when Monica refused to wear it and hit Valdemar, who hit her back 3 times. In the end, Monica was forced to wear those clothes. It turns out that their guest is Khazar, and Valdemar just left without a word. Once they were alone, Khazar stressed that Valdemar didn't love Monica since he gave her away just like that. But Khazar promised he'd never give her away, and with that, he tied her up before trying to suffocate her with a plastic bag. After the whole ordeal, Monica filed a report to the police station. She was violated, and she witnessed someone getting killed. Officer Payak seemed more interested in the murder, and he completely ignored the other crime as he focused on who was killed. After Monica recounted Khazar killing Norbert in his house, Payak asked her if she knew how dangerous of a man Khazar is. If they investigated him, he could still do whatever he wanted to Monica before he got convicted, if ever that even happens. Still, she wanted to press charges, so Payak withdrew a phone from the drawers and called someone to tell them what's happening. He gave the phone to Monica, who's horrified to learn that it's Khazar. It wasn't long before Monica was taken to his house by one of his men. Monica went home crying that night, and though Helena noticed something's wrong, she didn't push it when Monica claimed to be all right. So in the bathroom, Monica just continued to weep while she bled. If only the cop that Monica had spoken to weren't corrupt to the bone, perhaps the worst wouldn't have happened. It's extremely difficult to gather the courage that she did to come forward and report what was done to her and Norbert, but in the end, it didn't matter because Payak is in Khazar's pocket. Interestingly enough, Payak was also the one who told Bilski that they found the shirt in the barn. Jakubiak kept going on about how he was framed from the beginning, and witnessing a corrupt cop like Payak in action makes Jakubiak's claims hold more water. It's as sad as it is ironic that Monica's parents are powerful people. One is a judge, and another is a lawyer. Yet she couldn't turn to them. She likely fears for their safety given the fear-mongering Payak did. But at the same time, it's likely that she just couldn't tell her parents the ways in which she's in ruin. Shame aside, Monica knows that the wholeness of her family's resting on a balance as her own parents are morally corrupt, with both of them cheating on each other. Valdemar kept failing her too. He's supposed to be Monica's lover, but he never cared about her. He kept forcing her to deal even when she said she wanted to stop. And he just gave her away to his boss when he learned that he liked her. All Valdemar's balls went into dealing behind Khazar's back, and none to keeping his girl safe. In the end, Monica's surrounded by people she couldn't turn to, and given all the long-term injuries she sustained, she endured that helplessness for a long time. It's becoming more likely that Khazar's the one behind her death. Not only has he been actively making her life a living hell, but he's also shown an interest in lip-cutting. To make matters worse, he's connected to Roman too. Kita goes through the 3 cases of the missing women. One of them had nothing to do with the club, the family of the other moved away, and the one from 2016 happened to work at the shipyard club. Understandably, Payak is sure they won't find the last girl because all these cases are closed. Bilski asks Kita to check the bag of illegal substances he found in Monica's room for fingerprints, but Payak is worried they'll get in trouble if Ambrosiak finds out. Exasperated, Bilski simply emphasizes that women are getting brutally violated and killed everywhere. That night, Helena goes to the shipyard club to ask the staff about her daughter. The bartender claims he doesn't know Monica and asks Helena if she wants anything, so she orders a glass of water. After that, the bartender signals to one of their guys and the woman he's with, who approaches Helena as she drinks. That's when she learns that the newcomer is Monica's mother. Suddenly, the woman's demeanor changes. She stops Helena from drinking her water, telling her it's been laced with something and that she won't be allowed to leave. She also instructs her to leave her coat, go to the bathroom, and escape through the window. Staggering, Helena does as she's told and manages to escape through the window with the help of some girls outside. But Khazar's minion chases her. Terrified, she hurriedly gets in her car and drives off, eventually crashing into a police car. Afterward, Bilski and his colleagues find out what happened at the club. At the same time, Kita informs him that the fingerprints found on the bag match those of a man named Valdemar Mila, who disappeared after Monica's death. Immediately, Bilski tracks Valdemar's sister to ask about him, but the woman claims she doesn't know where he is. However, as she leaves her place to go to an abandoned building, she has no idea that Bilski's group has followed her. Once Valdemar's sister is gone, Bilski enters the building and finds himself face to face with his armed target. He tries his best to calmly talk to Valdemar about Monica and tells him he could be a key witness. But Payak suddenly shows up with Kita. Payak aggressively demands Valdemar to drop his gun before repeatedly shooting him. Both Kita and Bilski are stunned by what happened, and Bilski cusses Payak out since their only witness is now dead. That afternoon, Bilski learns from Helena that Monica went to camp when she was 14. The girl returned depressed, but Helena didn't ask about what happened because her daughter bounced back. She started partying a lot, started taking care of herself, but since she had good grades, Helena didn't nag. Now, she thinks that Monica was violated there. At home, Helena finally asks Roman when he started working for Khazar. Knowing his wife found his flash drive, a somber Roman admits that Monica came to him a week before her death. His daughter was so scared and so full of shame. She shared what Khazar had done to her, but at that point, Roman already knew. A month ago, Khazar visited him and showed Monica's indecent photos, but he promised to leave her alone if Roman did something for him. Still, Monica remained petrified as she confessed to witnessing a murder. That deeply troubled Roman, so he planned to give her money so she could hide somewhere. Unfortunately, she didn't make it. Roman tells Helena that Khazar kept swearing that he didn't kill Monica, but he did threaten to kill Helena if Roman tried anything. As for what he was asked to do, Roman started shell companies to hide Khazar's illegal businesses, opened accounts, and made transfers. All the evidence is in his flash drive, and it's enough to put the gangster in prison for years and ruin him. Realizing what he's getting at, Helena tearfully reminds him that he'll be disbarred at best if this gets out. But to Roman, it doesn't matter anymore, not without Monica. But he doesn't know any trustworthy prosecutors. Luckily, Helena does. Bilski walks down the station's halls like he owns the place, and with a $1 million smile, he presents the flash drive to Ambrosiak. They quickly mobilize to arrest Khazar and take his men down. They even find a sort of torture room in his basement, where he likely kept his women. When it's time for Khazar to be taken to the police station, Bilski instructs Kita to do it instead of Payak, no matter how much Payak insists on driving. Moments later, a guy from the forensic team tells Bilski they've collected every evidence they could find, but they didn't find the lips of the dead women. They search the shipyard club next, but nothing's there too. As he smokes, Kita jokes that Khazar shoved the missing lips in his back door, giving Bilski an idea. At the police station, the two inspect Khazar's belongings and find an odd bracelet. Bilski then shows Khazar a photo of his bracelet, which is made of 6 or 7 red zones of the lips. DNA tests confirm that one of them belongs to Janetta, and while the others are still being identified, Bilski hopes that Khazar will cooperate with them. The gangster makes a joke, but his lawyer whispers something that stops him from laughing. After that, the police attempt to arrest Payak, but since he opted to fight back, they end up killing him instead. Bilski informs Helena that Khazar will never leave prison, and that his colleague, Payak, was helping the man all along. He was the one who planted the evidence against Yakubiak. There's a problem though. Khazar won't confess to killing Monica, and they still haven't found her lips. But that aside, Helena shares that she's going to her friend's old mill on the weekend. Shortly after, Helena heads to the mill with Dubiela. To their surprise though, Mario's there. Helena breaks up his terse conversation with his father by asking him to join them for dinner. She asks if he and Monica were friends, and Mario answers that she was his, but he isn't sure if he's hers. She always seemed to have more fun with other people. In turn, Helena just says she knows nothing about her daughter. With a more unsettling smile, Mario asks the two if they're dating before ominously telling his father to come clean to Helena about what he did. When he receives the car keys, he finally leaves. Dubiela exasperatedly repeats to Helena that Mario hates him, spurring the woman to comfort him. On his way to Warsaw, Bilski stops by a gas station and sees a woman smoking and wearing a ring. All of a sudden, he remembers Helena asking him about her mother's ruby ring and recalls that Mario was holding it when he visited their house. At the old mill, Helena finds the ring on Mario's desk, and when Dubiela catches her, she quickly asks him to call a cab. While waiting, she gets dressed and gathers her stuff, only to be sedated by Dubiela. As the man lays her on the bed, he notices the ruby ring in her hand and takes it. After Monica received money from her father, Mario took her to the old mill. There, she told her friend about her very first memory. She sat at the mirror in her parents' bedroom. She observed her features, her Minnie Mouse shirt which was too big on her. Helena's right, she was violated in camp. But that was the time she decided to change. And just like what she did before, she's going to force herself to forget about what Khazar did to her. After hearing her story, Mario promised that he wouldn't let anyone hurt her again, and that he would never give her away. Monica was perturbed upon hearing that all too familiar line of speech, and before she knew it, Mario was forcing himself on her. Monica kept refusing and pushing him away, which ended with Mario repeatedly banging her head on the floor. That's how Monica was accidentally killed by the last person she trusted. At present, Helena regains consciousness in the basement, and manages to free her left hand from being restrained before using a box cutter to completely free herself. She then attempts to leave, but an armed Dubiela stops her from doing so, saying his son didn't mean to kill Monica. He didn't hesitate to cover up the truth when Mario called and told him what happened, and he stopped his son several times from trying to turn himself in. But finally, Mario came clean to Helena by leaving the ring on his desk on purpose. Dubiela didn't call the police because he knew that prison would have destroyed the boy. He just wants to protect him, especially after his wife died. See, Yakubiak's attorney visited him a few months ago. He didn't know Yakubiak was innocent, and they wanted to get him parole. Of course, the attorney needed documentation. For Dubiela, Yakubiak was perfect because no one would possibly wonder why he'd kill again. So, he dealt with Monica's body and gathered the evidence needed to pin Yakubiak again. He also removed Monica's lips, but now, he refuses to say where he put them. Outside the old mill, Bilski arrives and hears a gunshot. When he gets inside the house, he sees that Dubiela has killed himself. An extremely distraught Helena takes the ring and gets out, followed by Bilski, who admits he returned because he's bothered by the fact that Khazar didn't confess to killing Monica. Later on, Mario finally turns himself in. Meanwhile, Bilski gets to take a break and see his daughter, whose name is also Monica. Sometimes, real darkness has love and familiarity for a face. In Monica's case, She never thought that the person she considered to be family was capable of hurting her. That's why she didn't think twice to tell Mario what she experienced at the camp, which she couldn't even share with her own mother. It only showed she had faith in Mario, but clearly, he had nothing but desire for Monica. If he had even a smidge of decency, he wouldn't have tried to even kiss Monica after learning everything that happened to her. In the end, Monica was surrounded by people who kept failing her. She's a damaged woman trying to navigate the world after it swallowed her whole and spat her back out. In her attempt to change herself and forgo every part of her that was violated, she found herself in a dark place that was more than ready to tear her apart. Helena always knew that something was wrong with her daughter. She knew that she was different when she returned from camp. She knew that she was going through something when she went home crying after Khazar had hurt her. And yet, Helena did nothing. She never tried to leave her little bubble where she just oscillated between work and Dubiela. As long as Monica had good grades, as long as she wasn't outwardly in shambles, Helena let her be. Now, all she can do is think of every sign she missed, every way she failed her daughter. Both Khazar and Mario's affections for Monica were extremely twisted. They didn't actually love her. They just wanted to own her. Meanwhile, Valdemar did nothing but use her, then discard her the moment he saw his boss take a liking to her. But things wouldn't have escalated the way they did had there not been corrupt systems in place. Monica hit a terrible wall with Payak, and the harrowing thing is, she wasn't the first, nor will she be the last victim denied of justice, because the powers that be are protecting the criminals they're supposed to be protecting the public from. Luckily, there are people like Bilski who are trying to make a difference, and with his incessant pushing back, he was able to give justice to the lives Khazar ruined. Perhaps after all of his talks with Helena, after hearing all the signs she missed, all her regrets with her daughter, Bilski will be able to be a better father for his daughter Monica.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.